All right, good evening. It is right at 5:30. It is November the 3rd. This is actually going to be our regular meeting for the month of November for the Town of Spencer Board of Aldermen because the Rowan Board of Elections will be using this as a polling location next Tuesday during the day, and that is the election day. And so I encourage everybody to show up here and vote. And so with that, our meeting is called to order. We have 5 out of our 6 board members present here this evening, and we will begin with an invocation. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the beauty of the season. We thank you for the work that goes on in this community. Thank you for staff. Thank you for volunteers, those that step up to serve in many different capacities. I thank you for the board here with me, for their wisdom and guidance. Please give us discernment this evening to make the decisions that are best for those citizens and businesses. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And so, board, you have before you the proposed agenda for this evening, including consent agenda items. Since we did not have a pre-agenda meeting, those consent agenda items are at the recommendation of the mayor and manager. And so if there is any desire or any need to pull any of those items off consent agenda, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda at this time? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda presented to you?
So moved.
All right, it's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right. And so our agenda is set for this evening. And with that, we will move forward with recognitions. And Mayor Pro Tem, I believe you have a few recognitions for our students of the quarter.
Yes, I do. At the end of each quarter, I have the pleasure of going to the schools and getting a nominee for a student of the quarter. And each one of our 3 schools in the Spencer community nominate someone. And they set their own criteria. The town did not establish that, so that we could broaden the choice and everything. And we've got some really outstanding students that have been nominated at the very beginning. The first student, Kiara Garcia Hernandez from North Rand Elementary School. I noticed when they called out the All-A Honor Roll, she made the All-A Honor Roll too, but she didn't get nominated for that. Surprisingly, she got nominated by her bus driver because of the example she sets on the bus every day. And her bus driver said, every day at the end of the route, Kiara, and I think she was a 4th grader, checks the bus for left items and trash. She cleans it up. She helps keep the bus safe by removing left items. That's a big deal on a bus. And she makes sure there's no students asleep, and that's another big deal. So she maintains proper behavior all the time, and she truly leads by example. So that's why Kiara was nominated. Okay, our student from the middle school is Aiden Byers. And he was nominated by one of his teachers, and he was nominated because he's a student athlete. He plays football, basketball, and soccer, and still keeps his grades up. He has the hobbies of video games, watching YouTube videos, making TikTok videos, and doing backward flips. So he's an amazing young man. He hangs out with his cousins and friends when not at school. He loves going to school and takes his education very seriously, and the students love being around him. He makes good grades important to him. When he graduates from high school, he wants to go to college, and he wants to own a business and become a billionaire and take care of his mother and grandmother.
Nice.
I thought that was wonderful. Okay, and North Rand High School selected Kamari Alexander, and he was nominated by one of his teachers. He also made the A honor roll. one of the top students in my 4th block. He has a big spirit and heart. He likes to keep education fun and exciting, and teachers love students like that. Volunteers to answer questions and helps any student when needed. So I want us to give all 3 of these students a big round of applause. And students out there, keep working because you may be our 2nd quarter student of the quarter.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I'd like to invite Sky Allen forward. She has a few recognitions to make for our Trunk or Treat event that we held earlier this week.
Yes, good evening, Board of Aldermen and Mayor. So I wanted to make a couple of recognitions for a lot of the people who helped me out a lot during bringing the Trunk or Treat event to being on Monday. Specifically, the Whosoever Shall or Will Let Them Come ministry, Bishop and Patricia Brown really stepped up to, when we thought our event might need to be canceled because of all the rain we were getting that day, they really stepped up to provide their community center as an alternate rain plan. And even though in the end we didn't need it, they stepped up when we needed it, and we very much appreciate their kindness and generosity when we needed it. I also want to thank Joel and the Public Works crew for setting up and taking it down the event space, Chief Lanning and the firefighter department for sourcing our wonderful trophies that we gave out to our car decoration winners, for promoting the event and providing event EMT coverage. I want to also thank Chief File for providing event coverage, and Leslie Talbot specifically for doing a lot of traffic control when we needed it the most.
Really?
All in all, we had 10 trunks show up, and we had a lot of incredible decorations, and we had 300 to 400 young people show up, and that does not include their families. So it was a resounding success, and we hope to do it again next year. So again, I want to thank everyone who helped out in ways big and small to make that event happen. Thank you all very much.
We need to thank you as well for helping to organize it and plan it all. All right. All right. Next on our list is public comment. And do we have anyone signed up for public comment this evening? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, and so we have Sue Schultz signed up to speak this evening at 503 Charles Street. If you will come forward, you have 3 minutes. Thank you for being with us this evening.
I just want to tell you the Spencer Senior Luncheon for Christmas will be December 6th. We're doing it tonight because it falls on the same day as the next meeting. It'll be at Oakdale Baptist Church on Charles Street, and we would like to invite all the Spencer's residents 55 and up. We'd like you to come join us for a festive lunch and fellowship, and you can sign up at your local churches, or there's flyers all over town with a number on it, and reservations are required so we can have the right amount of food. We'd also like to invite Mayor and the Alderman, if you would like to come and speak to this population. A lot of times they don't have Facebook, or they don't know what's going on. It'd be nice if you want to come and tell them what great things are going on in our town. So feel free to come. I have invitations. Oh, one other thing. Appearance Committee is doing a Christmas decorating contest. It'll be just like the Halloween one. Kyle has put the stuff in the newsletters coming out, the new one, and there should be flyers up soon.
All right, thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank, I'm just with her. I'd like to thank the members of the Senior Council Committee, and particularly the 3 on the board, Alderwoman Sledge, Mayor Pro Tem Seacrest, and even Steve Miller is known to help with these things. Alderman Miller, thank you. I disagree with our speakers from Salisbury who think volunteerism isn't a thing in Spencer. Pretty proud of the group that shows up and the work they do for these events. So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to both of you for the work you do with the organization too. All right, do we have any written public comment? Okay. Next item on the agenda is our approval of our consent agenda. So are there any items on the consent agenda that the board wishes to pull for further discussion at this time? And if not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda, please.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor? All right. All opposed? And the consent agenda is approved unanimously. So the next item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing, specifically for a text amendment to Spencer Development Ordinance Section 17.5, which is our sign ordinance. And I will invite Mr. Blunt forward prior to that public hearing.
Don't think there's a big crowd to educate on this issue, but I'll run through it one more time for the public's edification. I explained this to you last time, back in 2015, when the Supreme Court handed down their decision on Reed versus the town of Gilbert. Planners ran around with their hair on fire, modifying their ordinances to say that we cannot regulate content on signs. And then after the fire went out, everybody started thinking about it and talking about it and discussing it with their brilliant lawyers, and found out that really you couldn't control political content, nor could you control content on signs on private property, on private individual signs. But it still left an opening for us to control the language on signs that are commercial business signs. If they're making money off their sign, we can regulate the language to some degree. It has to be a narrowly defined ordinance. It has to have very specific directions on what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And we have attempted to draft a text amendment to our current sign ordinance to that effect. It was sent to our attorney, who added a few caveats to it, which I included in the final draft. And that is what is before you tonight, is an amendment to our sign ordinance so that we can control profanity and obscenities on commercial signs in our town. Any questions?
All right. Any questions from the board for Mr. Blunt? Okay. Hearing none, we will officially open the public hearing. And we do not have anyone here this evening that has signed up to speak in person. Have we received any written correspondence on the matter? No. All right. We have not. So with that, is there a motion from the board to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
There's a motion by Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller. All in favor? All opposed? And the public hearing is now closed by unanimous vote. All right, so the next item is for the board to consider approving Ordinance 22-023, which would be an ordinance amending Section 17.5 of the sign ordinance of the Spencer Development Ordinance. Is there a motion to approve Ordinance 22-023?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
The motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? And that is approved unanimously. All right, the next item is to consider granting an easement to the Salisbury Rowan Utilities and City of Salisbury for a water line extension and water-only tap at the Yadkin River Trailhead. That's parcel ID 048006. And we'll invite Mr. Morris forward.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. This is really a technicality. In building the Trailhead project, the original construction project did not include a water tap. It will have landscaping on the site. There'll be trees and shrubs and flowers and that sort of thing. And in order to assist with the maintenance of the property, we thought that this would be a good time to go ahead and put a water tap in. And so I've consulted with the folks at the Salisbury Rowan Utility, and the town, in its agreement with the Salisbury Rowan Utility, has a fund that allows for extensions, and the numerical amount is $50,000 a year. And in consulting with Mr. Wilson at the utility department,
he says that this project will qualify as an extension, and so they will cover the cost of the tap, which is an unmetered water only tap. But they did ask in exchange for that the town grant an easement over our portion of the trailhead that we own, which is really for our protection in the event that there is ever a problem with the water line. It sort of contains and delineates the area where the utility department can go digging around to make repairs. And so what we're asking the board to do is to grant the easement. The town attorney has, in working with Norman Ryland, our surveyor, created a map, and Norman actually provided the legal description, and so Jay has drafted an easement that has been reviewed by the city of Salisbury's attorney, and so at this point everything is teed up, asking the Spencer Board of Aldermen to approve the easement, and then we'll proceed with having the water tap installed.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Morris, would it be under any of the pavement or anything like that?
It's actually just on the other side of the trail, so on the finishing plant side. It'll be in a landscape area. Okay. It won't be. Now the easement, I'm sorry, to clarify, the water tap will be not a paved area, but some of the easement will be over a portion of the paved area. Like having a water line in the street.
Right.
We have plenty of that.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion to grant the easement to Salisbury Rowan Utilities in the city of Salisbury on parcel ID 048006 with the deed of utility easement presented before you?
I make a motion that we accept this deed of utility easement for the city of Salisbury.
All right, there is a motion from Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Sledge. All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, thank you. Mr. Morris and Mr. Dees, thank you both very much for coordinating and getting that taken care of.
Construction crew will be on site Monday.
Very good.
Starting.
You said it was not metered. Why would it not be metered?
Well, it's.
Are we not going to have to pay a water bill on it?
No, we won't. Not initially, at least. In talking with Mr. Wilson at the utility, they have an issue with the water quality within the pipe, the sanitation of the water, and so they would like for us to leave the water meter on. Leave the water tap on all the time and run water into the river.
So the reason why is because it's at the end of the line.
It's a dead end.
So what happens at those dead ends then is water sits there. And so as water ages, the chlorine in it breaks down and forms disinfection byproducts, which are not good. And so that's why they continue to flush in certain areas. And so that will help them as we use that water to keep water moving through that system.
And eventually, as the site develops, there may be water users on the property that help alleviate that issue, and so they may come back to us and say, we need to put it on. For now, there won't be.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, the next item, I'll invite Mr. Blunt forward. We're going to get an update on the annexation request for the Johnson development off of Long Ferry Road.
Okay. Mayor, members of the board, when I landed in your wonderful office about a year ago, I remember telling you that big things were coming, and a lot of big things were coming. Tonight is the first step in one of those big things, and as a part of this presentation, I want to show you a few other things that are just on the horizon of happening. What's before you tonight is a request to go through a couple steps of a process that is required by state statute for the town to annex property into its municipal limits. Normally, it would be a real simple process handled over 3 meetings. What we're doing tonight is taking those 3 steps and doing them in 1 meeting. So it may seem a little complicated as we go through the steps, but I've scoured the statute to see if there's any reason we can't do it this way, and I've not been able to find a thing. So we're in good shape. But before I do that, let me tell you what we're looking at. Out on Longs Ferry Road, there are 4 parcels of land that black area covers, and I'll show you some clearer maps in a minute. And that is a parcel of land that's being bought by a company called Johnson Development to build a 350,000 square foot distribution center. That's a little clearer one that shows you the actual parcels of land that will be annexed. To give you some clearer perspective of where this is, the blue property is the Innospec property. They currently own the northern end, they own it all, excuse me. The northern end and the southern end have already been annexed into our town. There's a middle piece that will be annexed shortly. So all that blue will be in the town limits also. This is the Fisher Lamb site that we've talked about numerous times. 100-acre site, 600,000 square foot distribution center. This one is in the advanced stages of planning at this point, and annexation of this will follow in the not too distant future. A little closer look at that black plot of land just so you can see where it sits and what's around it. Mostly open parcels, a few existing residential structures on Long Ferry Road. All of that property is owned either industrial or C85, which is our commercial zoning. So your land use plan and your zoning document both support this as an area for this type of business. This is a site plan of what's going to be built there. And to see it a little clearer, I had to turn it on its side, but that gives you a little clearer perspective of what the building will look like, the landscaping, the parking. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you see some dotted lines, and if you could read the text that goes along with that, it would tell you that's future access road. And we'll skip over that one and come back to it in a minute. Let's give you a bigger perspective of what's going on out there. The big blob to the left in black is the middle through northern portion of the contiguous municipal limits of Spencer. The 3 areas going up I-85, one parcel on the east side also of I-85, those are satellite annexations. So they are also in the municipal limits, but they're satellite annexations. You'll see a yellow line, I believe, on that. Well, maybe you see it better on another slide. These are 4 projects, 5 projects really. 4 that I'm almost certain will be built and annexed in the next year. The one on the east side of 85, 1 million square feet of industrial space will probably be built in the next year. Everything works out. And this slide tells you a good thing about all these annexations. All those little yellow lines connect the black to the blue. And that means that those all become contiguous parts of our town. We no longer have any satellite annexations. They're all contiguous. We do have a hole in the donut out there that we would like to fill in over time, but there's no rush. And right now it's mostly residential. There are a couple of nice parcels that could be developed, a couple that have been looked at. So those will probably pop up in the next year. Something to keep me busy. I don't want to run out of projects. This is one that has a yellow line on it, and it shows you a little broader view of some of the other projects that we know are in the development stages, but we just don't have site plans in hand yet to define them. That yellow line that runs down the left of parcel 2 down to number 3, which is the one we're considering tonight, and stops at number 4 is a new access road that we are working on from Hackett Street down to Long Ferry. This will be built by one of the developers. Right of way will be donated by one of the other developers and will cost the town of Spencer basically zero. But we will have a new access road that will open up hundreds of acres for new development. To give you some perspective, the 6 projects, and I went in and added one, that number 6 is the North Carolina finishing property that's on the east side of the railroads. It's slated for industrial development. We have met with the developers and the property owner, and we have seen a proposed site plan for that one. All those together, the 6 projects that you see there, 490 acres, 2.75 million square feet of buildings, and about $350 million worth of tax base. To give you a comparison, the Summit Corporate Center, Rowan County Summit Corporate Center, Phase 1, which is on Julian Road and I-85, if you've ever ridden down that way, it's about 265 acres. I couldn't find out what the estimate of square footage was, but the tax base increase was estimated at $165 million. The Red Rock development farther out Long Ferry was reported in the newspaper to be about 350 acres, 2.65 million square feet, 265 million tax base increase, and 1,000 jobs. The Spencer project is bigger than all those. Spencer has 490 acres under consideration for development, and that's just in those first 6 projects. Doesn't include the other ones that were highlighted on that map. Square footage of the site plans that we're seeing submitted at this time for distribution and industrial adds up to about 2.75 million square feet, $350 million worth of tax base increase. And I can't promise you how many jobs, but if Red Rock's going to create 1,000, we'll be creating more than that. So I just wanted you to have a sense of all the good things that are happening and all the things that you have planned for as a board to make happen in this community. You might remember passing an incentive policy earlier in the year. That has been one of the reasons these people are interested in coming here. Now, let me back up to the one with the boring writing on it. I can tell you about this particular project that the preliminary site plan has been submitted and reviewed. The review notes have been sent back to the developer. They've agreed to fix the review notes and will be submitting engineer drawings shortly. Their petition for annexation was submitted on October 19th with signatures of all the current property owners affixed as required. The next step in the process would be to request of your clerk to investigate a petition received under GS 168-31. So in your packet, what you have is an ordinance, I believe. Yes. You have a resolution that you need to pass asking her to investigate the sufficiency of the petition. And then after you ask that of her, first you're going to have a public hearing, so don't let me get ahead of myself. After you ask that of her, normally it would be the next meeting she would come back to you with her certificate of sufficiency. But since she just assumes y'all probably would approve this and give her these instructions, I'm hoping that she's prepared to submit to you tonight a certificate of sufficiency. And then it would normally skip to the third meeting. You would set a public hearing by ordinance. And then we would have that public hearing and you would make a decision on the annexation. All those 3 steps up to setting a public hearing we're trying to accomplish tonight. So after you have your public hearing, I'll be glad to come back and answer any questions you have, or I can answer any that you might have right now. Doesn't look like it's going to be a big public hearing, so fire away if you have questions.
All right. Does the board have questions? Ms. Sludge.
Are these spec buildings or do you know?
The Johnson development, I do not think is a spec building. The Fisher Lamb site started out as a spec building, but I think they have found a tenant at this point. The one on the east side of the interstate, the 1,000,000 square feet of industrial space, they are working to find a tenant, and that's a 2-building project, so they may find a tenant and build the first building and then build the second building as they find the second tenant. They don't usually do spec buildings of this size. They do all the preliminary work, and while they're doing that, they find a tenant before they break ground and start building a building. They don't want to invest $60 million in a building and have to sit and hold it for any length of time.
Other
questions?
How about water? I know we got to provide water and sewer to these folks. No, Inspect's got water, correct?
We are required by statute to provide water and sewer to the level that it is provided to the other citizens of our community. The Fisher Lamb site, for example, they will be paying roughly $2 million. The developer will pay it to extend water and sewer to that site.
Okay.
The project tonight that you're looking at for annexation,
Right.
water runs right down Longs Ferry.
Longs Ferry.
So they will be paying for connections to water and sewer themselves.
Okay. And the water line's already there as far
Yep.
as that goes. But
Absolutely.
there's no sewer as far as that goes.
I'm not sure where it is, but they're paying to extend their sewer line.
There's not sewer.
It would be a pump line to some
Yeah.
point.
There are at least, I believe, Fisher Lamb site, there would have to be a lift station.
Yeah.
And then down the road, once the finishing company site's developed, another lift station there. So
Yeah.
they're all aware of the requirements for utilities, and will be that. And keep in mind that's part of the our incentive
Right.
policy is
Sure.
that allows them to kind of recoup that initial investment that they have to make in getting infrastructure out there. But that will be a cost borne by the developer.
Are we going to put water and sewer in this proposed road that Johnson's building, or is that going to be at another location?
The water and sewer for this road is not being built specifically for Johnson. It's being
Oh, it's being built for the
Fisher
Fisher
Lamb.
Lamb. Okay.
And the Fisher Lamb will bring water and sewer in from the west under the railroad tracks. They won't bring it up the road.
Oh, so it's going to, okay. All right.
So again, this evening, there are a few steps that we need to take. The first would be to adopt that resolution to direct the town clerk to investigate the petition received. The next step after that would then be to, if that petition or if the investigation has been completed, to receive that statement of sufficiency. And then the third tonight would be to set the public hearing date. Okay, and so the public hearing then would be at a subsequent meeting of the board, and I believe right now it's proposed to be November 8th, or December 8th, which would be our next pre-agenda. Okay. So with that, the first item that we need to move forward with would be to adopt the resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition received under North Carolina General Statute Section 160A-31 for annexation of property along Long Ferry Road. Is there a motion to do so?
I make a motion that we approve the resolution 1608-31.
Okay, and that's the North Carolina General Statute. Do we have an actual resolution number? Okay, thank you. All right, there's a motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right. And so that is approved. And so with that, does the clerk have a statement of sufficiency for us to consider this evening?
It is included in as certified.
Okay.
And that will see if there were any annexation towns and did not find anything, and I put the backup documentation in your packet as well.
Thank you. And so, board, you do have that material before you. And so with that, we have received the clerk's statement, certificate of sufficiency for the proposed annexation. All right. And so the next step then would be for the board to set a public hearing concerning the annexation. And you similarly have a resolution in your packet that would fix the date of that. And it would be proposed in that resolution indicating that that public hearing would be held here at Town Hall at 5:30 p.m. Or immediately thereafter as part of our normal monthly pre-agenda meeting on December the 8th, 2022. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution setting this public hearing date?
Do we have a copy of that resolution?
It should be in your packet. It is immediately, let's see what page. It's page 56 of the PDF.
It's a 3-page document because it had to have the meets and bounds description. Oh.
It's immediately after the sealed statement of or certificate of submission.
Petition requesting annexation. Is that it?
Yeah. It's actually going to be after that request for annexation.
Thank you.
It's on the digital version.
Okay, I'm good.
And again, all it does is ask you to set a public hearing date.
And it indicates once again that that would be held here at Town Hall at 5:30 p.m. or soon thereafter on December 8th, 2022. Any further questions or discussion on that? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to set the public hearing?
I move to adopt the resolution to set a public hearing on the question of annexation pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160A-31.
All right, there's a motion by Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved. Thank you.
If I could take you a step further, one of the statutory requirements is that the town work with the volunteer fire department that is currently serving this piece of property or these pieces of property. And we are required to take a percentage amount of their debt, long-term capital debt for machinery and buildings, if they have it. And I don't know at this point whether they have any outstanding debt. But we have to pay them for that debt since we're taking away their revenue source. They get tax revenue out of these pieces of property right now for firefighting. The purpose of it is they have made decisions in past years to purchase equipment that they need to fight fires and build stations to fight fires that included this piece of property. Now, that might be making you a little nervous until you do the math on how small this is in comparison to their whole fire district. This piece of property, or these pieces of property, I should have brought my breakdown sheet with me, but these 4 properties together, current tax values about $450,000. $450,000. Let's get all the decimal points in there. Their total tax district that they get tax revenue off of is $731 million. So the calculations to determine what our percentage of their debt is makes it very, very, very small. We are required by ordinance to send them a note, a letter, asking them to send us the information we need to do the calculations on how much we were going to owe them, if anything. And then we entered into an intergovernmental agreement with them for the period of time it takes to pay off that debt. You may hear some grumbling about this from people involved in the volunteer fire department. Again, this is such a very, very small drop in the bucket. It's about $500 a year in revenue is what they get out of these pieces of property for a $610,000 budget for their fire. So again, staff will take care of that. We'll do it behind the scenes. At some point, an intergovernmental agreement will be brought for you for approval that will spell all the numbers. All the other costs of annexing this property have been considered by staff. We have talked with the fire chief, police chief, public works to determine how much extra this property being in our municipal limits is going to cost us. We're not going to be needing a new fire station. It can be serviced from our current fire station. We're not going to need additional fire or police department staff because we already service buildings in that area. Public Works, the road that's being built will be built to NCDOT standards, handed over to them at the end. It'll be their road, not ours to keep track of. So we're doing everything we can to keep the cost down so that the revenue that's generated for you can be spent on good things, planning staff. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Just for clarification purposes, can you let the board know, I think you presented $350 million of additional tax base.
That's an estimate at this time. Yeah.
Which translates to roughly how much of our annual budget, how much would it increase it by?
I did not look at that. See
I
what
believe it's about.
I'm sure you looked.
It's in the range of about 15%. I believe it's about a 15% increase annually to our budget, which is for your consideration.
This will, and I think again, I told you in February when you had your retreat, these things are coming and they're coming fast. They're going to have a major impact on that end of town. There are other projects in addition to these that this February, I hope we'll have a little time at your retreat to flesh out that vision of what's going on in that direction and other directions of our community. There's lots happening. A lot of it you should claim credit for. You've been working to do the right things at the right time, and this town is moving in the right direction.
It's one of those properties, the truck stop. Where's that?
The one that's on the south side of Long Ferry is a truck stop. And we are hoping that they're still tweaking their site plan, but we hope that Montclair Street or Road, Street I believe it is, will actually be all set to the west so that the new access road will line straight up with it. We'll have a T intersection and there'll be stoplights and turn lanes, and we'll start managing the traffic flow in Longs Ferry ahead of the time when there's too much traffic to do anything with. There is currently going on a corridor study that Rowan County and Spencer and the local MPO are working together to anticipate the amount of traffic on Long Ferry created by these projects and the Red Rock project on the other side of the interstate, so that we can plan ahead of the problems being there and try to get ahead of them with some of the thinking that we're talking about now. We're trying to do our job.
So I want to commend Mr. Blunt for the job that he's done. I don't know if it's wrangling cats or what it is, but you've done a great job of bringing folks to the table from both the public side as well as the private side. I believe that there are a total of 12 entities involved in some form or fashion in this arrangement with all of these properties that have required collaboration between those parties, whether it be to get this access road constructed, coordinating with NCDOT on their preferences for that roadway and the alignment and how that would impact Long Ferry Road. So it's been a monumental effort. I don't know that I've seen any type of collaboration like this around in the past, and so it's pretty neat to see it happening, and it's pretty neat to see that folks are willing to collaborate to make things like this happen. And so, people are going to say, well, what about the traffic on Long Ferry Road? Yes, that's a concern, but again, as Mr. Blunt said, we're trying to do the studies in collaboration with the county who's funding the study, and NCDOT to make sure that NCDOT knows what to expect, because they will ultimately be the ones, because it is their road, that they would have to make the improvements to it. I think long-term traffic flow, signalization, those sorts of things are going to be much improved on Long Ferry Road as a result of this development. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Thanks for all your work on that. All right, we will move into our monthly departmental reports, and we'll start with our planning report.
Right.
Gave you a brief break.
Do them in reverse order. Mayor, members of the board, you have my written report in hand. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blunt. Are there questions on the planning report?
What is Adams Arch?
I'm sorry?
What is Adams Arch?
Adams Arch.
Yeah. Okay, and what about the groundhog?
Groundhog was very nice.
We have
a lot of groundhogs.
And he was not afraid of the car at all. He sat there and talked to me the whole time that I was seeing him.
He's probably reading the political signs.
That's what keeps me sane around here is saving turtles and talking to groundhog.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris, do you have any update for us from your arena of the planning department?
So the only update, well, I can provide updates on anything you'd like me to talk about, but the one thing I wanted to mention was, of course, the CDBG project, which we are in the final phases of setting up. So beginning next year, I can't tell you how many calls I still receive from people who, understandably have their frustrations about how long it's taken to start the program. And so I finally been able to tell people more specifically that we are planning to start in the first quarter of 2021. Hopefully in January we would be accepting applications for that program.
And just to clarify, 2023, correct?
Oh, 2023. What did I say?
Not 2021.
21. Well, I don't know what I was thinking about that. Yeah. But other than that, I really don't have anything prepared. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. The other grants for development in town that the city was helping along with Duke Power. How's that stand?
Those projects are, I believe there will be a certain portion of those projects that simply won't happen. Because of the nature of the economy this year, folks decided not to pursue the projects that they had initially thought they could do. I expect that we will have at least half of the project completed according to the initial contracts that we signed, but we are probably going to see some of that money not be spent. That's not anything that the town is responsible for. Once we sign those contracts, it is the burden of the applicant to hire the contractor and do the work. If the work doesn't get done, we don't have anything to reimburse them for. I think that the nature of receiving grants is that some of the money just may not get spent. But I am happy with the progress that we've had so far with that community. The Salisbury Avenue Corridor Grant, the Duke Energy Grant, as well as the Historic Preservation Grants that we've had.
Right.
I am seeing people excited about and taking advantage of those funds, but it may not be to the pace that we had initially expected. And I think that's just the nature of the types of clients that we're serving may not have the funding to do these projects as quickly as they think they could.
And the deadline for the Duke grants were?
The Duke Energy grants should be completed by December 31st. We are granting extensions if you provide a specific timeline for when the project will be completed.
Right.
There's really no feasible way that we can extend it beyond the end of the fiscal year. The calendar year was the goal, but if people are just struggling to finish it by then, we can grant extensions as sort of a last attempt to not have to return any of them.
Okay. And the money that is left over goes back to Duke Power?
The Duke Energy Foundation would request that the Salisbury Community Development Corporation return any of the funds that are not.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Ms. Allen, anything from your end that you need to update the board on? Well, from the planning special projects related world.
Well, the mass mailer I sent out to all of the grant providing organizations that have funded other art organizations in North Carolina has been sent out last week, and so far I've gotten 4 interested responses back. We're gonna have to meet and speak with them on their schedule, but contact has been made and there is interest there, and so that is where we are operating at for the new art projects. We are also hoping to, we've gotten a timeline for the drugstore and the Spencer Mercantile sign restorations. That'll be done on the weekend of the 9th of this month. So that's when that will start to happen. Currently, the pending sale of the building, the Studemeyer building project is on hold, as well as the Roger Dogs building pending some negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. All right. Code enforcement, Mr. Osborne.
Mr. Mayor, board members, good evening.
Good evening.
There is a little bit of a glitch on my agenda for this evening for the liens. There was a piece of property that I had added, apparently didn't make it on there. I don't know if that's something we need to bring forward in a different manner. But it's 704 5th Street is another lien I needed to add on that.
Do we have a copy of that for our agenda packet?
I sent that update. I guess it didn't make it to you. I can get you a copy before the night's over if you need it.
The rest of the board, do you have a copy of that?
I think the last one is 702 3rd Street.
Okay.
If you like a copy of that, I can bring it forward before the night's over for consideration for.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that.
And, other than that, the only other thing I need to add is the work that I'm doing to get the Old Country Store in compliance. I have initiated fines against the owner of the property for failing to provide instructional engineers reports for the exterior walls. And so at this time, I've already sent out or initiated a second fine. The owner is in jeopardy of accruing daily fines. They can't get it to me soon. So trying to wedge that out a little bit and see if we can get some movement in the problem. There's concerns about the exterior walls. Neighbors have concerns about its stability, and rightfully so. So I'm doing what I can to get moving on that. Sort of any other questions of my report this evening?
Any questions for Mr. Osborne tonight? This slide? You look like you had one.
I'm kind of lost here. I don't think that's the information about the liens and deeds.
Consent agenda.
Oh, I'm
right,
sorry.
right.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
the issue, is that
Okay.
one of them was not included.
Okay.
However, we have set the agenda for tonight, and so because of that, I think we'll have to carry that lien forward and consider it at our next meeting.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All right, and police department report. There's Chief Bob.
I'd go back as usual. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Good evening. I provided my standard monthly report. If you notice, the total number of events is slightly low this month at 974, which is lower than historically average. But if you look at the top, the period that we had to run this report for to have it ready for the meeting tonight is about a week and a half short. So we're running, call volume's running typical for this time of year, about where you would expect it to be. A couple things to point out on there. We have, as we talked about last meeting, we've put a separate line on there for the Davidson County Yadkin River Park checks. So you can see in there we've done 43 of those checks since we put that in. So that actually was put in a little bit after October 1st. So they are definitely checking out the park. I've done a couple of those checks myself. So we're trying to keep that area hot and heavy with law enforcement as construction gets started both on our side and on the Davidson County side. A couple things to notate in there. The guys are still being proactive. We've got 126 school checks in this time period. 125 business checks, and 44 at 8th Street Ballpark. So they're still being proactive on their preventive measures. So I definitely want to thank my staff for that. While I'm doing all the thank yous, I want to thank everybody, Chief Lanning, Joel and his team, and my whole list that I'm going to rattle off. Sheriff's Office, East Spencer PD, Cleveland PD, Salisbury PD, and Rowan County Emergency Management for their assistance on the North Rand Salisbury High game. Anybody that came by there, we had top-notch security that night, and I think everybody saw it when they came in. So we had a command bus set up and a lot of law enforcement emergency management personnel on scene. So it went off very well. Nothing out of the ordinary, and that's what we like to keep it as. This coming month, or this month on the 16th, we have the Community Connections that we briefly spoke about last time. That's at 6:30 here at the building. That's the one we're going to have a community event related to the Chiefs Advisory Board. And, people will be able to come in, sit down, talk to officers one-on-one. I believe we're going to provide some food. So definitely, I would like to invite each of you to attend that if you are able. That's on the 16th at 6:30. Let's see here, EKG2. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. That is a new program that we're rolling out. It's rolling out county-wide with multiple agencies. Our officers will be trained on it on the 8th of this month when school is out. So that is educating kids about guns and gang violence. That will be rolled out in the 7th grade. So if you were familiar before, going way back, we had DARE program, then we had the GREAT program. This is kind of not really a replacement, but it's kind of supplemental. A lot of those went away back during COVID time frame. So this is a shorter program, but I've been to the training on it. It's a very good program, so I think it's definitely going to be very beneficial for our schools. I believe the intent is once it's rolled out in 7th grade, in the future there's going to be another grade level where it will transition to. So there'll be multiple avenues to contact the students and discuss the issues they have. One last thing, we pulled off first place with Lego Man Police across the street. So we just got a $200 check for that. So we'll be taking that $200. We're going to adopt a family at the holidays and provide some food and children's gifts. So I appreciate the staff that helped me out with building that. I'm going to have to give it up to Sergeant Leonard. He is very talented and cut our police canine out just by sight with a saw. So if you saw it, he did a really good job with it. So I want to thank him for that. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Chief Fowl?
Are you all checking the dog park over there at the Yankton River as well?
Yeah, I think they're kind of logging them all together. If you notice on there, it was kind of odd. There were more Davidson County checks than there were our own checks. They're checking them when they drive by. They're checking it all when they go by. It just kind of depends on how they log it in. So there could be instances where they go across the bridge. Most of them go across the bridge, turn around at Davidson County. If they log it at Davidson County and they get a call or get dispatched to assist another unit, they're going to zip back past ours. So there may actually be times when the numbers don't balance out. Everybody would expect them to be identical, but they're checking it all when they're out there. So.
Right. I think the expectation would be if they're checking Davidson County, we know that they've
right.
by and taken at our side.
I noticed traffic at the dog park late yesterday afternoon, and I just wondered if we were checking that too.
Yeah, we are. They're doing a good job at it.
I just want to share, I've gotten very positive feedback from our local school administrators about the relationship and the work y'all are doing with the local schools and fire department as well. So thank you all. We appreciate it very much.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Chief Lanning, fire department.
Mayor and members of the board, how are you this afternoon?
Well, how are you?
So you have my report before you. We made a bet before of which three of us would make this the shortest, so I don't like losing. Obviously, call volume continues to increase. We actually ended the month with, I think, 134 calls. So in January, I told you it's the first time we ever hit more than 100, and last was, like, I think, 111. So that is continuing to increase. Kind of odd. We have more fire calls than we do medical. It's out of the normal, but we will take it and keep doing the best we can. Again, just wanted to hit and thanks for the support and allowing us to sign the contract last week to order the fire engine. Got all that done between myself and Mr. Franzese. The county had got some funding for AEDs. I took our 6 AEDs, I believe, and actually gave those to Chief Isle today to repurpose for, hopefully, to put in the patrol cars. So they'll have another line of assistance that they can give us. And then the last thing I want to hit on is I've been in contact with the counselor at the elementary school. Before Stacy had left, it was kind of a brief conversation, something that I've tried to continue with the hope to adopt 2 to 3 families or children within the school system this year to support them with this. So I'll be sending an email out, try to get some support townwide for that. Any questions for me?
Well, I think based on what you said, every single board member is going to have 5 questions for you tonight. I don't think you're going to win that bet.
I can plead the fifth.
Any questions for Chief Lanning? All right. Once again, as I mentioned to Chief File, thank you for the work you're doing at our schools.
Absolutely.
I know you're going down there and having lunch
Yes.
with students, so that's
Absolutely.
I commend you all and your team for doing that. It's
Thank
great.
you.
All right, Mr. Taylor, Public Works. Christmas has arrived in Spencer. huh?
Christmas has arrived. Partially. We're not quite there, but we're getting close. Getting close. So good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Just a few things. If you'll notice, I included the holiday trash schedule for the remainder of the year, and we'll be putting it out in the newsletter as well for the people, for the citizens in town. But if you notice, there's really only 2 changes from now to the end of the year. It's the way Christmas falls this year. So nothing will actually change except for the Monday after Christmas and then the Monday after New Year's. That's the only 2 changes there'll be to the trash. So the project on the corner of 2nd Street, the locate was called in. Hopefully Mike Shelton will get started on that next week. We'll try to get that finished up and buttoned up before the parade. So that will be taken care of. It'll kind of work depending on the rain, you know, when we can get in and when we can pour concrete. So, of course, as he's already stated, a great deal this month has been leaves and Christmas lights. So the leaves are falling like crazy right now. So we're trying to keep up with them as well as get but you'll see these are the 3 dates and what will be put up when. The main street, the lights in the trees, the buildings, and the lights across the street will be before Veterans Day, the weekend of Veterans Day. And then the big signs in the library will be done right at the parade, and then the Christmas tree will be put up in time for the Winter Fest, which will be right after Thanksgiving. So, kind of spread out between now and then. Just an update on the CCAP. Cindy has gotten all the information back to me. I actually just received it yesterday. That's why it's not in your board packet. But the price for the plants will be $5,865. That's just for the plant. That's just the amount of plants it's going to take to put that buffer back in, according to what Bill recommended to put there. The 2 plantings he was looking at are red cedars and American hollies, which are both native plants. That way we can plant in the buffer zone. We don't have to go outside. It can stay within the CCAP portion. For them to install that at the time, it almost doubles that. So I will be talking with Bill and seeing what supplies like mulch, labor, you know, that kind of stuff, what we can do to soften that just a little bit. But I would rather him do the plant, the initial planting. That way he can warranty the plant. Kind of makes a little bit of difference on that aspect. If we're paying that much for plants, it's worth the warranty on the plant. So whatever we can do on our side, whether it be hauling or mulch or, you know, whatever we can provide to soften that just a little bit, then we will, as far as that goes. So I'll bring a definite number back once I've had a little time to talk with Bill and see what we can do. Okay. Library. Painting on the library. We have switched painters. Talked to Mr. Lamb, which is the contractor which we have switched to. The day that I called him, he also received 2 contracts at the hospital in Concord. So here we are again. He's looking at February. It's going to be the next time, depending on weather. He said now if the weather holds out and it's warm, but he never schedules anything December, January. So we're looking at February at this time. Hopefully it'll be a little bit sooner than that, but we'll go with it with that. So, if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? All right.
Okay.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next is our finance report. And the financial report is in your agenda packet. I do believe we have Mr. Franzese joining us virtually this evening as he's in training this week. And so if there are any questions, we can direct those to him. Any questions on the financial report?
Barry?
Any questions on finances? All right. Next is our library report, and that is also in your agenda packet. Any questions on the library report? All right, hearing none. Mr. Franzese, town manager report.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Very good. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me to join you virtually this evening as I'm out of town and doing some training, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that and also the opportunity to join you this evening. A few things to highlight. You've heard mentioned the special newsletter that we're putting out. I credit Mayor Williams for the idea of a holiday happenings edition of our town newsletter. And we are working on the finishing touches of that, but we reached out to a variety of organizations to solicit feedback for what to put in there. And it's should be going out the week of the 14th and cover happenings through the rest of the year. So look forward to that. Also want to let you know that we had our first quarterly monitoring visit from Central Iowa related to our ARPA funding. That was very positive, and we're waiting the formal feedback from Central Iowa on that. But the day of the visit, they expressed a lot of positive feedback to us and having everything in a row, everything as it should for our compliance and reporting for the ARPA funding. And what this is kind of an extra process that we're able to go through so that when the state and federal compliance and reporting procedures come into play, we know we've got everything the way we should. We've talked over the last few months about the parade. I do want to make sure everybody's aware that Mayor Williams has once again arranged for the town to have a float in the 'Tis the Season Spectacular, which of course is the day before Thanksgiving, November 23rd. We do hope to have a group of folks on the float from the town, whether it be elected officials, appointed board members, staff members, community members. So if anyone's interested, please let me know, but we'll be getting more information out in the coming weeks as we find out the details. And then finally, we've got a neat opportunity coming up for our town staff and families, as well as, again, kind of the same group of appointed board members, elected officials, volunteers, etc. We're, as part of our sponsorship of Winterfest, the town's going to have access to the Spencer on Ice skate rink during the week in between the festival weekends of Winterfest. And so we're looking towards Monday, December 5th for this opportunity. We're going to be getting more information out about that, but should be a fun moment in the middle of all the frenzy to have a little fun together, which is important. We certainly have a lot going on with that the staff's working together on and getting ready for everything coming up over the next few months. I do want to add in another note of appreciation. I know Sky was speaking earlier about Trunk or Treat, which came together nicely, but I certainly want to express my appreciation to Sky for taking the lead on organizing that. She did a great job, and of course our departments that got involved, and several community members and organizations that joined in as well. I think we estimate about 250 kids. They got to take part in that experience. So a lot of fun, and we got a lot more fun ahead.
All right, hearing none, we will move forward with requests and comments from the mayor and board members. We will start with Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make some comments about our staff. The day of the football game over at North with Salisbury, I was very impressed with Chief Fowle and his planning that he did, and his officers, how well they ran that program event. No problems as far as that goes. Congratulate him and his staff for doing a great job for that. Also tonight, it's good that the police department and the fire department gets involved in helping families in need at Christmas time. That's very commendable for both of y'all staff. And of course, I can't leave out Joel. Joel's kind of short-handed, and right now he's trying to do a little bit of everything. He rides the garbage truck a lot of times, and that's pretty good for his role as far as it goes. He don't mind working, but
He was putting up Christmas lights today.
yeah, he was putting out Christmas lights today. But everybody is doing a great job. I'm real proud of everybody on the staff. Of course, I might as well go ahead and say the members of the office, they're doing an outstanding good job as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Morgan.
I'd like to repeat what Steve said about our town staff. They do a lot of work in planning, zoning, our codes, picking up trash, debris, leaves, and I just want to again thank all of you for your efforts and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen. And a shout out to Sky. Again, there's a lot of buzz over the wall that has been painted on the side of the building, and people are asking me, what's next. So I hope that the grants come through. We can get some artists hopefully started on some more in the near future. So.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Howe.
I briefly follow up with Mr. Miller said a few minutes ago. My parents, we didn't go to the football game last week, but my parents did, and they remarked at how everything seemed well ordered and secure and safe, and the way that a football game should be. I'm not sure where we went wrong. That in larger scheme of things, that we worry about those things, but at any rate, it's good that it was that way. I think there's obviously many great things happening, as we just heard tonight. I think if I've been here, I guess 12 years, if some of the things we just talked about tonight and the last few weeks had happened, he told me 5 years ago, I'm not sure I would have believed it. So that's I think tremendous for everyone. And I think the other things, we're obviously not meeting on Tuesday because it's election night. Regardless of how you land on issues, vote. At least that way you have a say.
Thank you, Mr. Al. Ms. Sledge.
I would echo Mr. Howell's recommendation to vote. Do your homework. But we've got some excellent candidates running for office, and we all need to take the responsibility of keeping our democracy intact, regardless of who you vote for. It's still important that you get out and vote, express your opinion. Something else I thought of. There was a group of women who came in after our meeting had restarted, and I recognized them. They were planning to be here for public comment and probably didn't get the message that this meeting started at 5:30 rather than 6. So I just want to express some apologies to the group. It was a group from Women for Community Justice, and invite them to come back at another time.
Thank you, Ms. Sledge. Mr. Muhammad.
Okay, I would like to reiterate what some of fellow board members already stated. There's reference to the staff doing a great job, the department head, Sky, awesome job with the events and as well as the grants on getting the little painting revitalized here in town on the mural. But I attended the game, the football game, and I can say Chief Al, Chief Landon, it was, a very pleasing, mannerism of the patrons of the game as well as you all staff. And I even stayed as far as to make sure to see how the disbursement went as far as everyone that attended the game. And it was well lit out there on the street as well, and that was a good thing too. But and again, yeah, it's very important to make sure that everybody votes and does their homework.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mayor Pro Tem.
Since we just mentioned the game, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow the first playoff game starts at North Rowan. They'll be playing Carver, so make sure you try to come out and go to that game. A little bit more school news. 4 to 6 on Monday at the Connected, which is down on Highway 29. We are sponsoring, the school system is sponsoring a meet and greet the new superintendent, and this is the North Rowan meeting. So if you can, try to come and meet Superintendent Withers. And I'd like to thank our town staff and some of our businesses for donating some items for a gift basket for her. So I thought, and everybody really came together, and we had a nice bunch of stuff today. I also wanted to make sure you remember that Winterfest and the parade will be going on, and we will be calling you, a lot of you, for volunteering. And if you're interested in volunteering and we don't get in touch with you, please call me. Okay? Because we will find something for you to do. There's plenty of jobs.
Yes, Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah, I also wanted to state that the 8th Street Ballpark, we're having our last game of the season tomorrow. They're going to be doing buddy ball, 6 o'clock p.m. And there will be a game there at 7:30 as well. So if any staff or residents of the town are available, the kids are having their last game out there for this fall season, and they've had a great time out there.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. All right. Well, I think our board has summed it up. Kudos to our staff and the job that you're doing. We're so appreciative of all the work you're doing. Great things are happening in Spencer. We are not without our challenges as any municipality, but I tell you what, I like the work that we're doing and the progress that we're making. It's neat to be a part of it, so thank you all. The other thing I want to touch base on is to expand a little on the parade. We are in need of volunteers, and I know I've spoken with Ms. Sledge and Mayor Pro Tem as well. There are volunteer coordinators for Winterfest, so if anybody's participating in that and can spare some time on the day of the parade to help out, we could use your assistance with that. And for those that are listening, on November the 15th, which is a Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m., we're going to meet initially at North Rowan High School in the parking lot there, and we will have a training session for any volunteers that are interested, so we can walk you through kind of the day of requirements and responsibilities, and then we'll come back here because obviously it is now getting dark early, and especially will be after Sunday. Remember, turn your clocks back an hour on Sunday for the end of daylight saving time. And on November the 15th, though, 5:30 p.m., again, we'll meet at North Rowan High School, and then we will come back here to finalize logistics. If you are able to help on the day of the parade in Spencer, please get in touch with either myself, Mr. Miller, Mr. Howe, really any of our board members, and we can connect you with the right folks. But we would ask that if you're going to help, that you come to that training session so we can meet everybody and everybody knows clearly what the expectations and responsibilities are. It's a long-standing tradition in our community, and we hope to see it continue in the years to come, but it can't continue without a strong team of volunteers. So for those that have helped and continue to help, thank you very much. And for those of you that are going to be new to helping, we appreciate your help and time and effort as well. And with that, that is all I have. I do believe there is a need to go into executive session for General Statute 143-318.11. My understanding is that is for the purpose of personnel discussion. Is there a motion to do so? So moved. Motion by Mr. Muhammad.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Morgan. All in favor? Right. All opposed? And we are now in closed session.